Chapter 16, Noctura's Story. I have lived in this barn for many years, began the owl, longer than any of you. I remember when Mrs. Brown came. It was springtime, and that year it was a very wet spring. So wet the fields were like swamps. All the animals had to stay inside until May, and everyone was dying to get out. Goodness, said Mrs. Brown, somewhat astonished to have that memory back and to know that Noctura also remembered it. That's true. And of course I remember about a year and a half ago, I believe that's right, when Burdock arrived. He was just a young cat, and solitary, I noticed, like me. Not long after that, he lost his eye. Burdock looked up and shivered. A coyote, wasn't it? Asked the owl. That's right, said Burdock, angling his head to better take in this mysterious, omniscient creature. All he got was my eye, though. I know, said Noctura. Very impressive. I've never heard of a cat escaping from a coyote. Burdock sat up a little straighter. Then why have we never seen you? Asked Tug. I hope you don't think me unfriendly, said the owl, but I keep to myself. It's an owl's way. I do like to listen to you all, and I hope you don't mind that I did, but I just felt most comfortable by myself. Not to mention, she continued, I am on a different schedule from all of you. Just like my name, Noctura, suggests, I am nocturnal, which simply means occurring in the night. I go out at night to get my meals and I sleep during the day. Burdock knew that cats too are supposed to be nocturnal, but for the most part he had succumbed to a daytime schedule. Noctura went on. Usually by the time I leave, you are all asleep, the same when I return. That is why you've never seen me. I saw you yesterday, exclaimed Fluff. Yesterday, said the owl, I went out earlier than usual. I was famished. I have to eat every day, but I had not eaten anything for 2 days because of the rain. All that wind and rain makes flying difficult. Soggy feathers are awfully heavy. We owls are not like fowl with oil in their feathers. All that wet kept me in. Oh dear, said Nanny. But finally I made a run for it. In all honesty, I didn't know what else I could do. But right away, things didn't go at all as planned. She had everyone's attention now. While the animals of the barn were supposed to be fretting over their possible imminent destruction, their minds were captured instead by this single ghost owl, almost 1.5 feet tall, who stood off to the side in Fluff's pen. While she spun her story, each of the animals settled down into the hay, or rested their heads on the wall of their pens, and felt a kind of absorbed calmness they hadn't felt since before all these worrisome days began. Noctura proceeded with her telling. She had flown out of the barn window early Saturday evening. That's when Fluff pointed her out to Figgy. It was darker than usual for that time of the day because of the clouds the storm had tossed up. Because of the rain the clouds had thrown down. Immediately, the ferocious wind took the owl by surprise. A twisting tidal wave of air pushed back on her, overturned her equilibrium, and sucked her away like a leaf caught in a roaring river. Oh, how she struggled to free herself. She beat her wings desperately, attempting to fly back at least to the barn. But the wind would not unleash her, and finally she just gave herself up to it. It marshaled her over deep woods and unfamiliar fields, past a village, over a highway, and farther, to places she had never known. Like a bad dream, said the owl. The sky was full of things that didn't belong there. Branches, bushes, even a chair. I prayed I would not smash into anything, and nothing would smash into me. Finally, there was a break in the storm, and the owl was released. She plummeted down, wing over wing, just managing to catch herself a little before she hit the ground and rolled under the lowest boughs of a tight grove of fir trees. It was surprisingly dry and protected from the wind under those branches, and so the owl, feeling very hungry and worn to a frazzle, but grateful to be alive, puffed up her feathers for warmth and spent the remainder of the storm right there. The dawn ushered in a beautiful, crisp day. Except for the downed trees and broken branches strewn about, there was no indication of the fury that had come before. Up from the horizon crept a warm, rosy red. The sky was clear and blue. Noctura awoke and cautiously emerged from under her shelter. She looked around. Below her was a slope of open land, and below that was a horse pasture, though no horses were visible. The bottom of the pasture was edged with manure maples, and through their bare branches Noctura could see a large house, smoke curling from the chimney. It was inviting, and without further thought Noctura opened her weary wings and flew down to investigate. There was work being done to the side porch. It looked like the rotten floor was being replaced, and an electrician's van parked in the driveway. Visible from the house, up the road 100 yards, was a barn, a round barn, the kind once built with a mind toward better accommodating cows' pie-slice-shaped bodies. The doors to the barn stood open, and a ladder leaned against the frame. "A round barn," said Noctura. "I was so curious, I flew in. It was nice in there, airtight, smelled like alfalfa. The stalls were clean, and the loft was very quiet. But there was not a single animal there, not a cat, or a cow. Why keep hay in a barn with no animals? But it didn't look abandoned either. It was in too good condition." The owl stopped talking and looked around, at Fluff, at Figgy, at Nanny and Tick, at Burdock, and finally at Tug and Pull, and Mrs. Brown across the aisle. "I know," she continued. "I know about what is going on here with Dewey. I propose we all try to move to this new barn. It doesn't look like anyone else lives there." "Whoa," said Tug. "Wait," said Figgy. "Before we get to that, how did you get back?" "Oh," said Noctura, "I have a built-in sense of direction. But I was so terribly hungry now. I'd not eaten for 3 days, so I was slow. I was flying, but just barely. It felt like my wings were weighted. I don't remember ever feeling so weak, and catching a meal was out of the question. If an owl's not quick, forget it. So I flew back here, but it took a while. I stopped to rest a few times. It must be over 8 miles away, if I'm calculating correctly." "You poor dear," said Nanny. "Noctura," said Burdock, deciding he had something he needed to ask. "Why even bother coming back here? I mean, why not just stay at that barn if you knew what was going to happen to this one?" "Oh," said Noctura, "yes, I see your point. I could have just stayed. But suffice to say, I am a creature of habit, perhaps reprehensibly so. I have lived in this barn most of my life. I have hunted in the same fields and gotten to know the trees in these woods. I know how this place smells, the sound of the creaking in these rafters. I know when to expect the spring peepers to begin and the fall crickets to end. I am used to this place and I don't like change. And I have gotten used to all of you. Even if you don't know me, I have gotten used to being here with you. If I have to move, I would like you all to come with me. Besides, I can't let you—" Her voice trailed off. "It would be nice to have you there," she concluded. Nanny had installed herself on a carpet of loose hay in the aisle and was watching and listening through the slats of Fluff's pen. Now she got stiffly to her feet. It seemed as though the owl was finished speaking. Noctura had said all she was planning to say. "Thank you, Noctura," said Nanny. "You have been very courageous, and your plan sounds promising." "Yes, but how on earth would we get there?" asked Figgy. I don't know about the rest of you, but I can't fly 8 miles. It does seem awfully far to walk, sighed Mrs. Brown. And there's no road? Asked Fluff. What if we're not welcome there? Wondered Figgy aloud. Honestly, everyone, said Pull, snorting hot breath through his nostrils. He had only just met this unusual winged creature, but he had a good feeling about her. He wanted to trust her. She was Noctura, the owl constellation. For centuries, people had looked to the stars for guidance. Pull would never have said this out loud, but maybe the right thing to do was to follow the path she charted for them. We don't have many options, he said. I mean, let's be reasonable, everyone. Who knows how welcome we'll be? But it's certainly better than here, isn't it? What else are we going to do? We can't spend the winter in the woods. We can't join the circus. Dewey isn't going to wait for us to find our perfect solution. This is it. Dewey has emptied out his garage. Dewey has bought gasoline. Don't you all see? There's really no reason Dewey won't burn down the barn tonight. If he does, I hate to break it to you, we're doomed. We can't escape now because Figgy's hole isn't big enough yet to get Nanny out. We're trapped inside. I'm not faulting you, Figgy. I know you are working as hard as you can. I'm just laying it straight. And let's also be honest about this. Even if Dewey doesn't come tonight, we sure don't have much time left. Noctura's option may be our only option. And except for getting there, it even sounds like a darn good one. Pull shook his head in frustration and loudly clopped a hoof on his stall door. Several of the animals jumped. The strong, steady horse had never been so riled up. Noctura opened her wings, beat them silently, and rose up to perch on a ledge that protruded from the barn wall, over the animals' heads. She had made her offer, and now she needed to separate herself just a little. Maybe she was giving them time to think. Maybe she was retreating a bit. Whichever it was, it appeared she felt more comfortable being off the ground and having the wood against her back. Tug observed his brother. He shook his head as if to slough off any lingering doubts. United we stand, he said. I'm with Pull. Me too, called Fluff. Yay, a round barn, cried Tick. He spun around in a circle and nearly crashed into the wall. Hold on now, we still have to think this through, said Nanny. Well, think. Everybody think, said Figgy. I'm going back to digging. Pull's right. Our time is running out.